First Contact's deadly miscalculation. The Nexari Collective made many mistakes in their 1,000-year expansion across the galaxy, but none proved as catastrophic as their assessment of Earth. High Commander Vexnan stood aboard the observation deck of the high ship Eternal Purpose, his crystalline form refracting the pale blue light of humanity's homeworld. The planet below seemed unremarkable. Another primitive civilization that had barely reached its own moon. Their quantum signature is barely measurable, reported Science Director Melira, her crystalline matrices pulsing with dismissive confidence. Their most advanced computing systems rely on crude silicon architectures. They haven't even achieved basic consciousness transfer technology. Vexnan's own matrices flickered in agreement. The Nexari had perfected their conquest protocols over centuries of expansion. Why waste resources on direct conflict when you could simply disrupt a species' consciousness patterns? Their quantum technology could interface directly with the neural networks of any sentient species, subtly altering thought patterns until resistance became literally unthinkable. The first wave of quantum interference began without warning. Across Earth, the Nexari deployed their consciousness-altering fields through a network of microsatellite probes. They expected the usual signs of submission: mass confusion, loss of willpower, eventual integration into the collective consciousness. Instead, they witnessed something unprecedented. Dr. Maya Patel stood in her quantum consciousness lab at MIT, staring at readings that should have been impossible. The interference patterns aren't degrading human consciousness, she explained to her colleagues over an emergency video conference. Our brains are actually adapting to them, creating new neural pathways that are resistant to the quantum noise. Research centers worldwide were reporting the same phenomenon. Human consciousness possessed a plasticity that the Nexari had never encountered. Each attempt to override human thought patterns only resulted in stronger neural resistance. Humanity wasn't just fighting back, they were evolving. In orbit, Vexnan faced an unprecedented crisis. Impossible, he declared, his crystalline form vibrating with agitation. Their consciousness patterns should be conforming to collective standards. Run the analysis again. But the data didn't lie. Somehow, this primitive species had developed brains that could actively resist and adapt to quantum interference. Centuries of dealing with their own chaotic thoughts and emotions had turned humans into consciousness fortresses. Even more alarming, they were beginning to understand the very technology being used against them. Dr. Patel and her international team made breakthrough after breakthrough as they studied the Nexari quantum signatures. Their technology is incredibly advanced, she reported to a classified UN session, but it's rigid, unchanging. They've eliminated chaos from their consciousness at the cost of adaptability. We can use that against them. The world's governments, for once united by a clear external threat, poured resources into quantum consciousness research. They knew the Nexari would eventually realize their failure and try something more direct. Humanity needed to be ready. Aboard the Eternal Purpose, Vexnan finally made his decision. Prepare the fleet for direct neural bombardment, he ordered. We will show these humans the true power of unified consciousness. But as his ships began their approach, he couldn't shake an unfamiliar sensation: doubt. The collective had never failed before, had never encountered a species that could turn their own quantum technology against them. They had unwittingly awakened something unprecedented in the galaxy. A species that didn't just resist attempts to control them, but grew stronger from them. Dr. Patel made a final entry in her research log before joining the Defense Coordination Team. They thought they were testing our mental weaknesses. Instead, they revealed their own. Whatever comes next, we'll be ready, and we'll be stronger than they could have imagined. The first wave of Nexari ships appeared in high Earth orbit, their crystalline hulls gleaming with quantum energy. They expected to find a weakened, confused planet ripe for direct neural domination. Instead, they would face a humanity that had taken their would-be conqueror's greatest weapon and turned it into the foundation of a new age of human consciousness evolution. The real war was about to begin. And this time, humanity would not be the ones caught unprepared. The hidden strength. In the depths of the Quantum Defense Initiative's underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Maya Patel stood before a holographic display that showed humanity's greatest scientific breakthrough. The neural interface crown she wore pulsed with soft blue light, translating her thoughts directly into quantum patterns that danced across the screen. Every human brain is unique, she explained to the gathered military leaders and scientists. While the Nexari sought uniformity in consciousness, we evolved to embrace neural chaos. Our thoughts create patterns that they can't predict or control. Colonel Sarah Chen, recently appointed head of Earth's Unified Defense Forces, watched the demonstration with intense focus. The quantum patterns generated by Dr. Patel's thoughts showed complexity that defied the Nexari's rigid mathematical models. "Can we weaponize this?" she asked, already thinking of applications. "We already have," Dr. Patel replied, gesturing to a row of sleek, black devices along the wall. The Neural Amplification Array. It takes our natural thought patterns and amplifies them into quantum frequencies that disrupt Nexari consciousness. Their crystalline forms can't handle the chaos of human thought. The first test of the new technology came sooner than expected. A Nexari strike force breached Earth's atmosphere over the Pacific, their ships radiating waves of quantum energy designed to overwhelm human minds. They weren't prepared for what awaited them. From hidden bases across the globe, thousands of human operators donned neural interfaces. Their combined consciousness, amplified and weaponized, created a storm of quantum chaos that the Nexari had never encountered. The crystalline aliens, so dependent on perfect order, found their own consciousness fragmenting under the assault. "Their ships are breaking formation," reported Lieutenant James Rodriguez from the Quantum Monitoring Station. "The neural patterns. They're actually causing physical disruption in their crystalline structures." The Nexari ships began to shatter, their perfect forms unable to maintain cohesion under the assault of amplified human thought. But Dr. Patel noticed something else in the data streams, something unexpected. "We're not just disrupting them," she realized. "We're connecting with them. Their collective consciousness, it's not as uniform as they thought." Deep within the failing Nexari vessels, individual crystals began to resonate with human thought patterns. Centuries of enforced unity began to crack, letting long-suppressed individuality emerge. Some of the aliens, experiencing individual consciousness for the first time in generations, chose to surrender rather than shatter. Colonel Chen supervised the containment of the surrendered Nexari, their crystalline forms now pulsing with chaotic patterns that would have been unthinkable in their collective. "They're changing," she observed. "Our consciousness is infectious to them." The prisoners provided invaluable intelligence. The Nexari collective, they revealed, was far more vulnerable than anyone had suspected. Their rigid adherence to unified consciousness had left them unable to comprehend or resist the complex patterns of human thought. What they saw as humanity's greatest weakness, our chaotic individual minds, was actually our greatest strength. Dr. Patel worked tirelessly with her team to refine the neural technology. Each breakthrough brought new understanding of both human and Nexari consciousness. "We're not just fighting a war," she told Colonel Chen during a rare break. "We're forcing them to confront the very thing they tried to eliminate from their species, the power of individual thought." As news of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy, other species began to take notice. The Nexari's grip on their vast empire had always depended on their ability to control and unify consciousness. Now, for the first time in centuries, their dominion showed signs of cracking. But the collective would not accept defeat easily. In their crystalline cities across the galaxy, they began preparing a response that would either preserve their perfect unity or shatter it forever. The next phase of the war would test not just humanity's technology, but our very understanding of consciousness itself. Colonel Chen stood at the command center window, watching neural interface units being loaded onto humanity's first quantum warships. They thought they could simplify consciousness down to mathematical patterns, she mused. "We're going to show them just how beautiful chaos can be." The human-Nexeri war was about to enter a new phase, and the fate of consciousness itself hung in the balance. But humanity was ready, armed with weapons forged from the very chaos that made us human. The galaxy was about to learn why trying to control human consciousness was the Nexeri's greatest mistake. Unity through adversity. The arrival of the Meridian ships changed everything. They appeared suddenly in Earth's orbit, their organic vessels pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that defied Nexeri detection. Dr. Maya Patel watched in amazement as their representatives emerged. Beams of pure energy contained within fields of conscious thought. "We have watched your resistance with great interest." The Meridian ambassador's thoughts resonated directly in the minds of the assembled human leaders. You are not alone in fighting the collective's tyranny of unified consciousness. Colonel Chen studied their unexpected allies with professional interest. The Meridians explained how they had escaped Nexeri control centuries ago by evolving their consciousness beyond physical form. But they lacked humanity's unique ability to actively disrupt Nexeri thought patterns. "Your neural chaos is the key," the ambassador continued. "We can teach you to expand consciousness beyond physical limits, while you can show us how to weaponize thought itself." The alliance grew quickly. The Orions came next, silicon-based beings whose crystalline forms had given the Nexeri false confidence in their invasion attempts. Instead, the Orions had developed a form of quantum camouflage, hiding their true consciousness beneath layers of fake neural patterns. In the QDI facility, now expanded to accommodate their alien allies, Dr. Patel worked to integrate these diverse approaches to consciousness. Each species developed different defenses against Nexeri control. She explained during a global briefing. "By combining them, we're creating something entirely new." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Rashid Khan, a Sufi mystic turned quantum physicist, recognized patterns in meridian energy fields that matched ancient meditative practices. Consciousness isn't just individual chaos, he theorized. It's about finding harmony within that chaos. Working together, human scientists and their alien allies developed the quantum consciousness matrix, a technology that could link minds across species while preserving individual thought patterns. Unlike the rigid Nexeri collective, this was a voluntary union that grew stronger through diversity. The first joint operation demonstrated the power of their combined approach. A Nexeri control node in the Centauri system faced not just human neural chaos, but a coordinated assault of multiple consciousness types. The rigid crystalline networks couldn't adapt fast enough to the ever-changing patterns. Their weakness isn't just their uniformity, Colonel Chen realized, watching the operation through the quantum link. It's their fear of change itself. They chose perfect order over the potential of evolution. News of the Alliance's success spread through quantum channels across the galaxy. More species began to emerge from hiding. The gaseous zephyrs, the time-dilated Cronians, even rogue Nexeri crystals that had developed independent consciousness. Each brought new perspectives and abilities to the growing coalition. Dr. Patel found herself working with consciousness types she had never imagined possible. The Cronians experienced reality at different temporal rates, while the zephyrs existed as collective thought patterns within gas clouds. Yet all shared a common understanding. Consciousness thrived through adaptation and change. The Nexeri response was predictable. They tried to impose even stricter uniformity on their remaining territories, but their actions only served to highlight the contrast between their stagnant order and the dynamic evolution of the Alliance. Colonel Chen, coordinating with alien military leaders, developed strategies that leveraged their diversity. The Nexeri expect us to fight like them, with unified tactics and predictable patterns. Instead, we'll show them the power of creative chaos. In her private moments, Dr. Patel reflected on how far humanity had come. From a supposedly primitive species facing extinction, they had become the catalyst for a revolution in consciousness itself. The neural interfaces that had started as weapons were evolving into tools for understanding and cooperation across the boundaries of species and form. But the Nexeri still controlled vast regions of space, and their fear of chaos made them more dangerous than ever. Intelligence suggested they were developing new weapons designed to enforce consciousness uniformity on a galactic scale. The Alliance prepared for the next phase of the war, knowing it would test not just their technology, but their commitment to preserving diversity of thought. The fate of consciousness evolution in the galaxy hung in the balance, and humanity was leading the charge into an uncertain future. As she calibrated the latest version of the quantum consciousness matrix, Dr. Patel smiled at the irony. The Nexari had invaded Earth because they thought humans were primitive, their consciousness too chaotic to resist control. Instead, they had united the galaxy against themselves, proving that true strength comes not from enforced order, but from embracing the beautiful chaos of evolution itself. The counter-offensive. The combined fleet of humanity and its allies emerged from quantum space above the Nexari core world of Cristallis Prime. Colonel Sarah Chen, aboard the flagship Consciousness Rising, watched as the organic Meridian ships, metallic human vessels, and energy-form Zephyr crafts moved into formation. Each ship carried a refined version of the quantum consciousness matrix, now powerful enough to project liberation rather than just destruction. Neural synchronization at optimal levels. Dr. Maya Patel reported from the quantum bridge, where her consciousness merged with both human and alien minds through the advanced interface. The Nexari have never faced anything like this before. The battle began not with conventional weapons, but with waves of consciousness. The Alliance unleashed a carefully orchestrated chaos, human neural patterns providing the unpredictable foundation, amplified by Meridian energy manipulation, masked by Orion quantum camouflage, and dispersed through Zephyr gas clouds. Deep within Cristallis Prime's crystalline spires, the first cracks appeared, not in the physical structures, but in the rigid consciousness patterns that had controlled the population for millennia. Nexari crystals began to resonate with new frequencies, experiencing individual thoughts for the first time. "We're detecting widespread consciousness fragmentation," Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, monitoring the quantum feeds. "Their collective network is destabilizing." But it wasn't just destruction, it was liberation. Dr. Rashid Khan, leading the consciousness science team, observed the process with profound interest. The Nexari didn't just suppress individuality, he explained. They forgot it existed. Now they're rediscovering what it means to think for themselves. The Nexari Defense Fleet responded with desperate fury, trying to impose their will through brute quantum force. But their rigid tactics were no match for the Alliance's adaptive strategies. Colonel Chen coordinated attacks that shifted faster than the Nexari could analyze, each species contributing its unique approach to the battle. Meridian energy beings phased through Nexari shields, disrupting their quantum coherence from within. Orion ships appeared and disappeared, their false consciousness patterns confusing Nexari targeting systems. Human neural chaos weapons shattered the enemy's collective combat coordination. But the true victory came in an unexpected form. A group of Nexari crystals, their consciousness awakened by the Alliance's liberation wave, began broadcasting their own thoughts across the quantum network. Their message spread like a virus through the collective. Individual consciousness was not just possible, but natural. Dr. Patel, monitoring the quantum channels, recognized a critical moment. "They're remembering," she said. "Before they chose uniformity, before they feared chaos, they're remembering who they used to be." The revolution spread through Cristallis Prime's crystal towers. Millions of Nexari, their consciousness patterns shifting and fragmenting, began to break free from collective control. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained their empire for centuries began to dissolve. But victory brought new challenges. Many liberated Nexari, overwhelmed by their first experience of individual thought, needed help stabilizing their newfound consciousness. The Alliance had prepared for this, with teams of human and alien consciousness specialists ready to assist. "Integration protocols ready," Dr. Khan reported, as specially trained mentalists began working with the freed Nexari. "We're not just breaking their chains, we're teaching them how to walk again." Colonel Chen watched from orbit as entire sections of the crystal city below began pulsing with new chaotic patterns. How many other worlds are like this? She wondered aloud. How many beings are waiting to remember who they really are? The liberation of Crystallis Prime marked a turning point in the war, but the Nexari leadership remained entrenched in their most secure strongholds. Intelligence suggested they were preparing something desperate, a last attempt to reimpose perfect order not just on their own species, but on consciousness itself. Dr. Patel and her team worked to analyze the quantum data from their victory. Each liberated world teaches us more, she noted. The Nexari Empire isn't just falling, it's evolving. The question is, what will it become? The Alliance fleet regrouped, preparing for the next phase of their campaign. But they had learned something crucial. The most powerful weapon against the Nexari wasn't destruction, but revelation. The memory of freedom, once awakened, could shatter the strongest chains of control. As the ships prepared to jump to their next target, Colonel Chen received a priority quantum transmission. The message was brief but alarming. The Nexari leadership had activated something called the Unity Protocol. Whatever it was, the quantum readings were unlike anything they had ever encountered. The war was entering its final phase, and the stakes had never been higher. The fate of consciousness itself would be decided not by weapons, but by the choice between enforced perfection and the beautiful chaos of free will. Evolution's victory. The Unity Protocol revealed itself as a massive quantum consciousness wave emanating from the Nexari capital world of Prime Nexus. Dr. Maya Patel stood before the Alliance Council, her neural interface displaying readings that defied conventional understanding. They're attempting to enforce perfect consciousness uniformity across the entire galaxy, she explained, her voice grave. Not just on their own species this time, on every form of conscious thought. The Meridian Ambassador's energy form flickered with alarm. Such an attempt could destroy consciousness diversity forever. All species would be locked into a single, unchanging pattern of thought. Colonel Sarah Chen studied the tactical displays showing the wave's expansion. How long do we have? Hours at most, Dr. Rashid Khan answered, his quantum calculations streaming across multiple holographic screens. The wave is accelerating through quantum space. Once it reaches critical mass, evolution itself will stop. The Alliance launched its desperate counter-offensive. The combined fleet, representing every form of consciousness in known space, converged on Prime Nexus. But this time, the Nexari were ready. The Unity Protocol had transformed their capital world into a quantum amplifier of unprecedented power. Their consciousness pattern is completely unified now, Dr. Patel reported as they entered the system. No individuality, no variation. Perfect crystalline thought structure across their entire species. But perfection had a price. As the Alliance forces engaged the Nexari defenses, they discovered something unprecedented. The enemy's absolute unity made them powerful but brittle. They couldn't adapt to the Alliance's chaotic tactics because they had sacrificed the very ability to change. The battle raged across both physical and consciousness space. Meridian energy beings dueled with Nexari quantum constructs, while human neural chaos weapons clashed with crystalline thought barriers. The Zephyrs dispersed their consciousness through the quantum field, seeking weaknesses in the enemy's perfect pattern. Dr. Khan, monitoring the quantum readings, suddenly straightened. "There's something wrong with their pattern," he announced. "The Unity Protocol, it's not just enforcing uniformity, it's burning them out. Perfect order is killing them." The revelation changed everything. The Nexari leadership, in their desperate pursuit of absolute control, had created a system that was destroying their own species. The Unity Protocol wasn't just a weapon, it was a suicide pact. Colonel Chen made a decisive call. "All ships, switch to liberation protocols," she ordered. "We're not here to destroy them. We're here to save them from themselves." The Alliance fleet reconfigured its quantum consciousness matrices. Instead of attacking the Nexari unity, they began broadcasting the full spectrum of consciousness diversity. Human neural chaos, meridian energy patterns, Orion quantum states, all combined into a symphony of thought that represented the true nature of conscious evolution. Deep within Prime Nexus, the first cracks appeared in the perfect crystalline pattern. Individual Nexari, their consciousness pushed to the breaking point by enforced unity, began to remember, not just their own past, but the fundamental truth that had driven evolution since the beginning. Diversity breeds strength. Dr. Patel, linked deeply into the quantum network, felt the change begin. They're awakening, she whispered, not just to individual consciousness, but to the memory of why consciousness evolved in the first place. The Unity Protocol faltered, its perfect pattern disrupted not by force but by revelation. Across Prime Nexus, Nexari crystals began to pulse with new, unique patterns. The rigid hierarchy of their civilization, maintained for thousands of years through enforced uniformity, dissolved in a wave of awakening. They're not just accepting individual consciousness, Dr. Khan observed in wonder. They're embracing it. The very thing they feared most has become their salvation. The liberation of Prime Nexus marked not just the end of the war, but the beginning of something unprecedented. The Nexari, freed from their self-imposed prison of perfect order, began to rediscover the power of diversity. Their crystalline forms, once identical, started developing unique patterns that reflected individual thoughts and experiences. In the aftermath, as the Alliance helped the Nexari stabilize their newfound individuality, Dr. Patel reflected on humanity's journey. From a supposedly primitive species facing extinction, they had become the catalyst for a revolution in consciousness itself. They thought our chaos was weakness, Colonel Chen mused, watching Nexari crystals pulse with increasingly diverse patterns. Instead, it was the key to evolution all along. The galaxy entered a new age of consciousness exploration. The Nexari, their knowledge of quantum mechanics combined with their newly rediscovered appreciation for diversity, joined the Alliance as equals. Together, all species began exploring the true potential of consciousness evolution, not through enforced unity, but through the beautiful chaos of free will. Dr. Patel made her final entry in the Quantum Consciousness Archives. The greatest power of consciousness isn't in its ability to maintain perfect order, but in its capacity to change, to grow, to evolve. The Nexari sought to end evolution. Instead, they became part of its greatest leap forward. The stars shone on a galaxy forever change, where consciousness flowed freely between species and forms, and the only constant was change itself. Humanity's greatest victory hadn't come through destroying their enemy, but by helping them remember what it truly meant to be conscious.